Today we're going to be working on a guessing game. So the first step to this and any code you write on Trinket is going to be to make sure that you use the proper headings to keep yourself organized. And as you can see at the top here, I have my name, the date, and just a little note about what it is I'm going to be doing here today. To make a basic guessing game, first we're going to assign an integer as our answer. You can choose any number you like. I'm going to be using 5. And in order to create a game where the user may continue to play until they guess the answer, we're going to need to make a loop. To do this, we are going to start off a block of code with the while true loop. As always, you want to ensure that you are typing the keyword while in all lowercase and capitalizing the T in true, which is your Boolean value. And you also want to make sure that you use the colon to ensure that our code will be properly indented. Otherwise, when you go to run your code, you'll run into some problems. Let's start by getting input from the user by asking them for a number between 1 and 10. We need to assign their input to a variable. So let's call this variable guess. To write code that assigns input to the variable, you'll need to use the equal sign. From here, we'll write input, guess a number between 1 and 10. Because the input we're going to receive from the user is a number, we will need to write int, which stands for integer, in front of our input bracket. Otherwise, when we run our code, the user's input will be interpreted as a string and we wouldn't receive the correct output in response. So you'll notice here we put in our integer there in front of our input bracket, and we put another set of brackets around all of that so we know what it is that we want to assign that integer to. So you want to make sure you have your bracket there in front of input and a second bracket there on the very end. Now that we have our input question ready to go, we can work on the output responses. We can use the if conditional and say if guess is equal to the answer, print you guessed right. And then we can use break to end the loop. Now say the user doesn't guess the correct answer on the first try, we're going to want to make sure that we use the elif or else if conditional, and we're going to have two ways that can go. So the first one will say if the guess is larger than the answer or less than or equal to 10, we want it to print you guessed too high. So down from that, we're going to use the elif again and say if the guess is smaller than the answer or more than or equal to 1, we want it to print you guessed too low. And then to ensure we have all of our bases covered, we can also add one last conditional using else, print invalid number. So in case the user inputs anything other than a number between 1 and 10, it can kind of reset there, let them know they put in an invalid number and restart the loop again until they either guess correctly or get another output that they guess too low or too high. Now that we have all of our code written, let's run the program and test all the different outcomes. But before you do that, just make sure you have all of your code indented properly. I myself just had a slight little error, so it happens all the time. And there's nothing more frustrating when you're going through your code and you're looking for that issue and it turns out just to be something as minor as an indentation. So once we have all of that checked out, let's run our code. And then over here, you can see guess a number between 1 and 10. So let's run through all of our options here. First, let's put in an invalid number. So we'll put in 11 because that falls outside of between 1 and 10. Invalid number, guess again. A number between 1 and 10, let's try something lower than 5. We'll do 1. You guessed too low. Guess a number between 1 and 10. Now we'll try something higher than 5. Let's try an 8. You guessed too high. Now we'll put in 5 to make sure it really does give us that correct answer and that it breaks the loop. You guessed right, and the loop ends. So there you have it. That is a basic guessing game.